Hi, welcome to Tya Talk. I want to first of all celebrate the fact that I have yet another piece of furniture in my office that's taking a year to come together. I hear from some of you sometimes about my really sad backdrop. You don't like the red painting, you don't like the sad plant, but it is what it is. It's coming together slowly. My cabinet finally came in. It only took 8 months, but it's here and I appreciate it. And soon there'll be drapes and wallpaper and a lamp and other stuff. And maybe we'll find another home for the sad snake plant. So, anyway, if you're signing on live, say hello. Let me know you're out there. And for all of you watching in the future, I am going to, these are always on demand, by the way. So remember that we go live at a certain time or later than a certain time sometimes. And they're always available to scroll back within your membership level and watch them on demand. So you always have access to these anytime you want to watch or rewatch or something like that. And I'm trying to shape all of our lives up, our live videos up. I'm not trying to shape our lives. That's your individual job. Um, so that we have specific content on specific segments. So Tya Talk is about Tya tools, the Tya practice specifically. Claim Your Power Hour is more of a discussion around the stream's teachings in general. Anything spiritual is on the table. We can talk about anything, really. There's nothing that's ever off limits for any of our broadcasts. And then Sunday Soul Food is really focused on the stream and the stream experience and getting in touch with your own version of the stream and having more of that almost meditative, almost, I don't want to call it a religious experience, but a spiritual experience on a Sunday morning, almost like a ritual that we're to do together. And I want to move more in that direction for all of these lives. And then, of course, our Tuesday is always about coaches other than myself coaching Tya, because we have a lot of great coaches that are really, really good at zeroing in on nuances of the Tya practice. They give you something that's a little different flavor than just hearing from me about it all the time. So that's the idea and intention behind all of the different lives that we do. And today I want to talk briefly about detuning via appreciation, because the stream has taught us, and perhaps we didn't even need the stream to teach us this, but in case we do, um, that what separates humanity from all other beings, all other physically manifested beings on earth, is the fact that we have this ability to jump time in our human consciousness, whereas all the other beings are simply responding and adjusting to their current moment conditions. So while something that's occurred in an animal's life is an expansive experience for that animal, they'll add that to their belief system, so they have an instinct to stay away from a predator or move towards something that they have discerned as a preference. They're not really hearkening back to the trauma and the pain and the wrongness of something that happened in the past. They're really just using that information to enjoy their now moment on a higher level. It's expanding them. And the interesting thing about humanity is that when we're at our best, that's how we're operating. We're simply using that past experience information to make better decisions in our now. Unfortunately, we have the fortunately and unfortunately, we have the ability to create. So we create a scenario around things that have happened in the past that we tend to really focus on sometimes and relive over and over and over again. We keep them alive. We are giving that past event life by focusing on it, especially when we're focusing on it with intensity, meaning that we're focusing on it with intense joy and pleasure, or we're focusing upon it with intense, an intense vibration of being a victim, or judgment of the wrongness of it, or something along those lines, the trauma aspect of it. And that creates our suffering. So that suffering in the past is a uniquely human thing. And the reason that we're able to do that is because, again, we're creative beings. The positive side of that, there's duality in all things. There are two sides to every single topic there is, in physical. So the duality of that is that yes, we have the ability to create. So we can project into the future and create things in the future that do not yet exist. Animals evolve, but that's just a response to current conditions and a physical response over time. We evolve as well, but we certainly go well beyond evolution with our ability to create. So in that heightened ability to create, we can create all sorts of luxuries for ourselves. The ability to communicate, the ability to travel, the ability to heal more rapidly, to fix broken limbs and do things that the animals in our world just can't do. So we have that ability to create. And the positive side of it is that we can create advancement for our society, for our civilization. The downside is that we also create all of this judgment, fear and judgment, what I call the matrix very often, this fear and judgment flavored versions of what has happened in the past. And based on what has happened in the past, what might happen in the future. So we go back and judge our past, we create fears, we create abundance blocks, and then we create a future based on the belief system from our past. So the key is not to always just live in the now. I know that there are spiritual teachers that say that you need to get present and be in the present moment. I think there's great value in that because the only thing that truly exists in physical is the now moment. That's it. That's the only thing that exists physically to us that we're experiencing is our now. Everything else is just consciousness. Everything that's ever going to happen, everything that ever has happened already exists as thought, as consciousness. So when scientists talk about everything happening simultaneously, that's because the universe is consciousness first. It's thought first. It's intelligence. The physical fleshing out of that consciousness creation, think about it as almost like a byproduct of that. And that creates this experience for us to come and move through in a linear way. And it's just something that we're experiencing. It's like we plug into being a human being on planet Earth. And while we're plugged into that experience, we are experiencing linear time. We're experiencing a physical evolution of our physical vehicles and a beginning, a middle, and end experience to whatever that is that we manifest while we're in that experience. But that's one of infinite experiences for the wholeness of that which we are. But the stream has said that's while it's true that we're infinite beings, that the value of our current human journey is in our now experience. So we can explore past lives and we can explore life on other planets and all that stuff. I know it's interesting, but we don't have awareness of that for a reason. We have this ego consciousness, this human consciousness that focuses us here. So we have this experience. So this is where the value is for us as we know ourselves right now. So the path to living mostly in your now is appreciating your now moment. Because if you are doing anything less than appreciating your now moment, then you're projecting into the future. You want something to be different. There's nothing wrong with that. That's how new creation happens. That's how we progress through life. That's how we, start new businesses and start families and relationships and travel and experience the physical environment. So yes, we want to project some into the future, but grounding ourselves in our now moment through meditation and appreciation has a lot of value. And a lot of times we get so focused on being dissatisfied or complacent in our now, and we put a lot of energy into thinking about the future. And if we're not thinking about the future, then we're thinking about the past. This happened in the past, and I don't want that to happen again. So I want to build a wall of never again. And then you've just created an abundance block for yourself. Because you have to remember, as you move into the Tya tools and Tya as a practice, you are playing the game of life with a whole different set of tools. Tools that are aligned with universal law, not with the matrix. Because the matrix operates in reverse of universal law. Everything the matrix teaches us is really to create disharmony with universal law, which is the law of attraction and then the law of polarity that moves our point of attraction around. That really is all there is in universal law. Everything else is a human created spinoff of those two things. So when we are in fear, when we are in judgment, we are creating what we're fearing and judging because the universe only answers yes. Whatever we're broadcasting, it doesn't matter whether it's a desire or something that is not our preference, it does not matter. The universe is not judging our vibration. And wherever we are focused is our vibration, period. The universe does not know the difference between David wants this and David doesn't want this. It's all yes. Yes. You're worried about this? Yes, more of that. You want this? Yes, more of that. You are terrified of this? Yes, more of that. Wherever you're focused, you're just going to get more and more and more of. And that's a hard thing for humanity to grasp because we are taught so much fear and judgment in the Matrix. You never again, never again, never forget, never again. I go through, the social media that I look at these days, which isn't a whole lot. There's so much focus on the past, the atrocities of the past. And what do? We keep that vibration alive by focusing on the past, thinking that somehow really focusing on the past is somehow going to change it or is going to change the future, where we're really manifesting more of the same thing. And we see evidence of it everywhere. Think about how many problems where we focus on the problem and it never gets solved because we focus on the problem. So the key to all of this is radical appreciation. And I like to call it radical appreciation because we are talking about appreciation of all things. All things. That's pretty damn radical in the Matrix. Anyone that's really steeped in the Matrix is going to say, no, I can't appreciate XYZ. And they're going to dance out 5, 10, 20 topics that they just cannot appreciate, will not appreciate. They'll never be able to appreciate it. End of story. They're never going to fully release that energy as long as they think that way. And that's just all there is to it. They're going to keep themselves steeped. Now, there's nothing wrong with that because, again, if we're appreciating all that is, we're appreciating them and their journey. And their journey is that they're going to continue to create more suffering for themselves in their focus on that. And the collective consciousness is going to continue to create more collective suffering in the focus upon that. But your participation in the collective consciousness of anything, especially suffering, is completely up to you. So all of the fear mongering, all of the stuff about, the whatever country you live in, but certainly the United States, the country is falling apart, or humanity is unraveling. All of that has been going on forever. There are stories and writings of humanity unraveling and the evils of humanity and everything coming to an end forever. Beginning of recorded history, right? It's just always been. Humanity has always thought that we were about to unravel and about to end. And yes, we have some major disruptions to harmony in our world, but you, in your independent journey, you decide if you're going to participate in that or not. And in the Tya practice, where we're guided to by the stream, there's never a mandate in Tya, but where they guide us to is being so detuned of the matrix that we know that our well-being and our expansive journey as a human being is assured no matter what. No matter what's happening around you, no matter what's happening in your country or in your family even, that you are okay. The other side of that, though, is that to be in that space, we must also have radical appreciation for the journey of others, even if we don't like it, even if we don't agree with it, even if we don't want it for them. And I know the most difficult one to detune is our desire for the well-being of our loved ones. It's an interesting place to get into where you can really step back and appreciate the journey of your child or your spouse or your partner or your parent, no matter what it is. No matter what it is. I've had to do some detuning work around this. For years, I judged my sister. My sister is living a life that I think is not very exciting or interesting. I thought for a long time, oh, you're just wasting your life. You don't go anywhere. You don't do anything. You don't have any relationships. You sort of just stay, in your space and watch TV or listen to podcasts or whatever you do. And then it finally dawned on me that why am I judging her? She's a grown woman. She's making her choices. She's living exactly the experience that she wants to live. It's not my business. It's not my place to judge her and say that what she is doing is wrong any more than I want to pay attention to her judgment of me for being a spiritual kook. right? Which I know she does, which is fine. So that detuning of judgment must go in all directions. Because if you have, it's kind of like cancer. If you have a little bit of it somewhere, it's still a problem. Because if you really authentically want to detune everything, detune the judgment of everything, and have radical appreciation for all things, ultimately, it's got to be all things. And yes, it's a process. You don't just arrive at detuning and appreciating all things overnight. You maybe start with some things and start detuning and then move on to some other topics. But you get to raising your vibration higher and higher and higher and higher. The detuning part and the appreciation part gets easier. In fact, it just becomes natural. When you get above neutral, up into that +5, +10, +15 vibration, it gets a lot easier to understand how Source views all creation without judgment, because you are becoming more Source in that space. You are more Source-like. The higher you go in vibration, the more Source-like you are. And the more Source-like you are, the less you judge, the less you fear, the less you need, the less you concern yourself about the judgment of others, the less you worry about people's judgment of your backdrop or your hair loss or your gray or your fat or whatever it is. I've experienced that. I've certainly experienced that where I'm not concerned about it. This is who I am. This is what I offer. There's value in these words and these teachings if you give it power. If not, fine. It's so freeing. And it feels amazing to be in a space where you understand your own Source being, that you're so out of the matrix that you know what it's like to look upon all creation in authentic appreciation. It's a wonderful feeling. You're not going to stay there all the time. You're going to dip down. You're going to knock yourself out of that high vibration so that you can go down and have some lower vibrational experiences that do nothing but offer opportunities to expand and move right back up in your appreciation of them. So that's what the practice is. The practice is applying that radical appreciation to everything as a system, as a belief system, so that you default to that instead of the old default of judgment and fear, which we've been taught our whole lives. We're reacting instead in appreciation. Good for them. Good for them. That's their choice. They're having their experience. That's the most soothing words that I have found for that which we used to judge. My sister is having her experience. Your alcoholic brother is having his experience. The people that are suffering are having an experience that they are co-creating, even if they're not doing it intentionally. Not all creation is intentional. Just think about this. If all creation was an intention of preference, there would be zero suffering in the world if it were that easy. It's not that easy. It's not that easy because the world is not designed that way. We're in polarity. Polarity is taking our vibration down. We are lowering our vibration, getting more into ego, letting some of those old negative things come back around. But as you do this work and systematically detune, they come around less and less and less. And they become very different in terms of how you experience them, how you deal with them. When the judgment is detuned and the fear is detuned and the need for anyone else or anything else to be different to bring us joy, when we get so high on our spiral, we realize that joy is available right now, regardless of what your house looks like or your body looks like or your bank account looks like or your job or your relationship or your children or lack of. It's available right now. That's the most important thing to take away from all of this, is that raising of the vibration takes you into a space where you're no longer needing anything to change to be happy. And then when you get there, things start to change. Things start to roll in that you've long desires that you've long maybe even given up on because you thought they were impossible or too hard to manifest or something was wrong. I remember going through a phase years and years ago where I said my attractors are broken. I would say that to myself. I understood the law of attraction. I believed in it, but then I went through this sort of dark night of the soul. I've done many of those now, but this sort of period where I just decided, well, I believe in the law of attraction. I know it works, but my attractors are broken. I thought I was so special that I was the one person on the planet that just couldn't attract. Of course, that's where I went into the deep study and understanding of polarity. Attractors are never broken; they're just impacted by polarity. And when we learn to react differently to what our lower vibrational experience reveals to us, then your attractors are no longer broken because you go down in vibration, you feel lethargic, you don't feel energized, you don't feel appreciative, you're in a grumpy mood. You're maybe jumping on that thought train that shows up down there, and you're going down the path of negative thoughts. You can change all of that. You can stop all of that. You teach yourself not to get on the thought train. You teach yourself these Tya tools to shut down the clawed voice, don't get on the thought train, and tell yourself when you're down the spiral, I have no business creating down here. I know I'm DTS. I don't like being down here. I know I'm a different being down here than I am when I'm up there. And while I'm down here, I'm not going to think about stuff. I'm not going to create anything. I'm not going to try to solve anything because it's all pointless. Because down here, I'm not capable of new creation. I am only capable of new creation when I get above neutral into my source space. And then how do you get above neutral from down there? You appreciate the down. And that's quite a trick to teach yourself. I'm DTS. It's okay that I'm DTS. I appreciate what's being revealed to me down here. I appreciate my obstacles because if I am experiencing it, that means I created it. And if I created it, I can solve it. And in my solving of it, however that looks, don't get real specific about how it gets solved. However it gets solved is going to create expansion for my being. I'm going to become a more sophisticated version of me, having had this experience and moved through it. That's why we're here. That's the whole thing. So remember that the radical appreciation piece, once you apply it to everything, you are one with Source. Source is not something in the sky. Source is not a human being. Source is not an entity. Source really is consciousness, the consciousness of all that is, the creator of all that is. And we are all expressions of that energy. And when you move up into that energy while in your physical vehicle, you are a very powerful creator. But you get so high that the creation part and the powerful part just don't matter anymore. It's just assumed and it's appreciated. And all the good stuff just flows. And it's a wonderful way to live life. And yes, the matrix has lots of little tentacles that will come and grab you, and with in the form of a bill showing up in your mailbox, or a pipe breaks in your house just when you're starting to feel abundant, or so a rift happens in the relationship, or you get a weird diagnosis in a physical, or something will come and disrupt it, always, because we're in duality. So something is always going to come and disrupt. But that's okay. The disruption exists to expand us. The disruption exists to give us something new to create from. Because if we are just loving all that is and needing nothing and wanting nothing, then we're not really expanding up there either. In terms of separation from physical, the top of your spiral is just as apt to separate you from physical as the bottom. Think about that. Being at the very, very, very top of the spiral where you want for nothing and you hold yourself in that space, which means you're really defying polarity at that point. What's the point of being in physical? You're going to manifest either a disruption, which is much more likely to manifest a disruption where you're going to allow polarity to take you down, or you're going to manifest an exit from your physical experience, which is fine. We're eternal beings, but we did come here to have this experience. And there's nothing wrong with having a desire to have a long physical experience. So it's just as static as the bottom of the spiral. We know people that go down their spiral and stay down there become self-destructive and ultimately can manifest their own demise one way or another. But you can do that at either end of the spiral. because we're not here to be static. We're here to move up and down. So you get yourself up there more and more and more. You experience more joy. You certainly have more abundance flowing naturally because you don't need it anymore. So you're not chasing it away anymore, because we know that vibration of need chases things away. Because again, the universe answers yes exclusively. So if we start thinking that we need something, we're going to activate that vibration instead of the vibration of having. Oh, you need it. Yes, you're right. You need it. You're going to keep needing it because you need it. Stop needing it. Stop needing it. Start appreciating the now moment, the now experience, and appreciate the experience of others, even if they're suffering. Suffering's a choice. We all know that. We claim ownership of our own suffering in this practice. We have to allow other people to have ownership of theirs as well, even if they're nowhere near ready to claim it. They're making their choice. We don't have to be callous about it. We can be caring. We can send positive vibes. But if we're at the top of our spiral and they're suffering below neutral, we have two choices. We can send them our positive vibes of appreciation for their experience, which is very benevolent. Or we can lower our vibration and get down to where they are to meet them at their level and try to help them. And guess what? When we're down there where they are, we're not offering them anything. Appreciation of them and their journey. And think of someone who's really struggling with something and how people try to intervene and stop their experience and how unsuccessful that usually is. And think about the offering in appreciation of their journey and how that can really make a difference for them if they choose to accept it. But we've got to move toward, we don't have to, but it's nice to move toward appreciation. I would say we have to move toward appreciation to fully embrace this practice, but it's always up to you whether you want to do that or not. I hope you do, because it's pretty damn wonderful. And I have the joy of hearing from people every day around the world whose lives have been changed by this practice, by doing these things and making this their new belief system. It works. It works. So thank you for listening. Thank you for joining. And if you'd like to learn more about the Tya practice, as always, thestreamofdavid.com is our website. There is a whole Tya practice page that tells you everything about it. There's some free masterclasses and things that you can take. We always have the podcast. We always have Patreon. I don't do a lot on social media anymore, but we do have these things for all of you who want to follow these teachings and learn more about the stream and the Tya practice. We're always going to be here for you. Thanks.